everyone. I'm Noreen Jaramillo, Director of Communications at Emergence Health Network, and we want to welcome you to our podcast, Talking It Through with EHN, where we explore a lot of different topics related to mental health, substance use treatments, and the overall wellness of you and your family. And we do so with our experts at EHN, such as Joey Saucedo, who is with us today. Joey, thank you.
Thank you
for spending some time with us. You actually are one of our 988 crisis call takers. And first of all, I want to say thank you because you work the overnight shift. So Joey has been working all night, but he's here with us this morning to talk about a bunch of different topics. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Before we get on with the conversation and the questions, I want to, point out that we are at the 911 Center, 911 District here in El Paso. And the reason we're here is because our EHN 988 crisis call takers are housed here, correct?
Yeah, this is our home basically. We're here 365 days a year, Christmas, holidays, whatever. But yeah, no, we moved from the crisis center where we were originally at to this new location. And honestly, I'm really happy here. It's really nice. We got a lot of facilities and it's definitely nice to have such a safe environment, I think, is my biggest thing that I really enjoy about this area.
Nice. And there was a strategic reason for that, right? Because you guys work in the same area as the 911 call takers for city, county. There's a bunch of different organizations that you work alongside with. And it helps expedite calls that are mental health related, correct?
Yeah, so it goes both ways, honestly. So it's a very mutually beneficial relationship.
Okay.
So if somebody calls 911 and they just need somebody to talk to, because that happens a lot, 911 will transfer the call to us and we can handle it from there. And we can have contact with 911 in case somebody does need to be dispatched. Or vice versa, if we're getting a call and we feel like somebody does need, a rescue or they need help, we can just easily reach out to 911 through the systems that we have available. And it's one of those systems where I think it's really useful because before we just had 2 cell phones that we had to use, but now we have this computer, we have all this fancy stuff, so it works a lot better for both of us, I think.
And obviously that benefits our community and the people who call it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Make sure that also too, because a big thing about 988 is diverting calls, so that way when you're calling, we're not going to automatically send 911 out there, so sometimes we're able to just handle it there and free up resources in the community.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's go back a little bit we talk about crisis and 988 call takers. So can you explain what your purpose is and your crew's purpose in our community? What is your whole reason for being with EHN?
Yeah, so I'm a night shift supervisor, so which means it's me and about 3 other individuals that work at night. We're there for really anything. So if you're not able to sleep, if you're in a crisis, because breakup calls are a big thing that we get. Just people losing their job, issues with whatever's going on in the media. You can dial 988 and we're available to you. And since we work with EHN, we know everything that's going on locally. So if you do call 988, it routes you to somebody in El Paso, which would be us. So, if you need to get services, if you've never been introduced, we can help you out with that. If you just want to go over coping skills, or if you just need to vent, I have some callers some nights and they just want to talk. They're I just need to talk, just don't say anything, and they'll talk. And you hear it throughout the conversation where it's they start off at a 10 and they end up at a 4, and they're able to on my shift because of night, they're able to just fall asleep after that.
Okay, and that's got to be rewarding knowing that you're helping these individuals.
Oh, definitely. I think that's one of the big reasons I enjoy this job is a lot of those calls. When they tell you at the end of the call, hey, you really helped me out tonight, man, and stuff, that's definitely what gets us through the night. I think me and a lot of my other coworkers, definitely.
Okay. So obviously you're talking about the night shift, but we do have crews here 24/7.
Yeah.
So the day shift as well. What are examples, or are they similar to calls that they may receive throughout the day?
I think with both shifts, we definitely both do crisis calls. So whatever time you call at, you're going to get somebody qualified. Everybody I work with, I can say is a hero. And being a supervisor, which is new for me, I'm listening to their calls and everybody's good. There's not a single person on my team who I'm man, what did you just say? Everybody is amazing. They're all heroes. Some of them, listening to the calls even as a supervisor, it's heartwarming. You hear these people and they're so compassionate, so empathetic. It really shows with our team. But any time of day you call, you'll be able to get somebody to help out with really whatever you need help with, as far as it's like a mental health crisis.
Okay, so we talked about being at the 911 district. Question, I kind of want to jump in there and explain where 988 came from. So this is relatively, 2 years, new initiative, a national initiative, because there's always been the suicide crisis helpline. And EHN operated the local line, which is still in operation. You can dial 915-779-1800, or now it's just simplified where you can remember 988. So what is the difference between 988 and 911?
So 911 is more like if you're having a physical emergency.
Okay.
So like if you need to get the police out there, if you need the ambulance out there, if you need a fire truck out there, that's where you call 911, because I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
Okay.
But if you're calling in, like you're just having a bad day, if you're just stressed out, really anything. Like, I mean, I've gotten calls where people are just, they can't find the remote, and that is the crisis that they need. And that's perfectly acceptable. It's sometimes that's just the straw that breaks the camel's back. So really anything mental health you can call, even if you just have questions. Like if you're okay, but you feel like things might get hard and you're like, I want to get into services, what's my first step? That's a really big thing that that I tell people about.
Okay.
And one thing I do want to say too is just like, there's no reason, if you feel like you need a call. You're never bothering us, because that's one trend I've been noticing is that people call and they're like, I'm sorry to bother you. Like, no, you're not bothering us. This is what we're here for. We're here to help you. So definitely something I would want to say to the public.
Okay. Well, Joey, I could say just in the few projects that we've worked together on, you're an amazing, you could just tell your aura is a very helpful, compassionate individual. So thank you for what you do. I just want to say that. Okay, I want to talk a little about, and you briefly talked about this, crisis. So it doesn't, obviously, we want people to reach out if themselves are thinking about harming themselves, suicide, or someone they know, but it doesn't always have to be at that level. It's everything up to that level. Like you said, not being able to find the remote, or just having a bad day, or maybe a bad week, and that last day is like, oh my gosh, I just need someone to talk to.
Yeah, no, I think crisis is I think it comes off as such a harsh word.
Right.
It's definitely a harsh word, but it doesn't have to be that, because I think a lot of people can call in if you're just building up to it, because our job at the end of the day is to get you to what I call like a cooler calm. Because I think people call in and they're hot, things are bad. If you're got warm, call. If you feel like just calling and just talking to somebody would help you, call. If it's, as long as it's something that's mental health related, we can definitely help. We can listen. We can help you find next steps.
Okay. And again, this isn't just for, obviously, if a person personally is feeling these emotions, these challenging emotions, but you're also available to help. Like if there's a mom out there, or, a coworker out there, and you're concerned about a friend or a loved one, we can call you and say, look, I'm concerned because my mom has been acting different, or my son is really withdrawn. You can kind of guide us on how to help these individuals, correct?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really big thing that people call about, and I give them kudos for when they're calling, because it shows that they care about this individual. So we can tell you how to talk to this person, because sometimes too, you might just need to role play the conversation, because it's not an easy conversation to have, and we recognize that. So if it's something like, my mom's really withdrawn, and you've always, seen your mom as this person and stuff, you can talk to us about it. We can role play it, and then we can give you all the resources that you need for your mom if she does want to, try to get help. Okay. So I think that's really a big one, where it's not just for you, and if it is for you too, because seeing your loved one in distress is distressing, and, we can help you out, and we can try to help you help the other person out too.
Okay. So you're a valuable resource. 988 has this really cool feature where obviously you could talk to a person, but you could also text.
Yeah.
Correct?
So
how is that beneficial?
Texting is, so there's two numbers that for texting that I always tell people at night, because the other one's 741-741. That's the crisis text line. And then there's 988 that you can text. But it's good because sometimes I think when you're in a crisis, you might not be able to talk. You might be at work, or you might be, I think one of the ones that I got when I was doing the tech side was somebody who they didn't want to wake up their partner. So they're texting at night. or because I've always worked nights. So these are all
Yeah.
like my examples, or just, sometimes people, I think especially with the younger generation, they're more comfortable texting than they are talking about their emotions. So I think that's a really good resource that, if you're not able to talk for whatever reason, or you don't want anybody else to hear what you're saying, there's a bunch of reasons where I think it comes through, but you're able to, call or text. And they also have a chat option on the website. So if you go to, I think it's like lifeline.org, there's a chat option where you can just talk on the computer if you don't have access to a phone. So those are the three major ways: the phone, the text, and then the chat.
Okay. And you mentioned that texting and chat is popular with the younger generation. So we want to make sure that everyone knows this resource is available for everyone, age, any kind of problem that you may be dealing with. But we want people, young, old, in the middle, to know that this is a resource for you to get that support that you need. Yeah,
really, anybody at any age. I've gotten calls from, I think, as young as like 4 to as old as 98. Like, I want to say there might have been somebody older, but we get calls from the entire spectrum. And really, whatever you're going through in life, just having that empathetic ear, having somebody who's going to talk to you, who's going to be validating, who's going to, just be there with you, I think really helps. And I think it's just that's where the resource is really good too. Just want to say too, when you call, we're not going to send out the police right away. That's a big thing that people are afraid of.
Well, and you mentioned it's not like you ask any personal information.
Yeah, no, if you don't want to tell us anything, even on the chat or text, you could just power your way through it. You don't have to answer any questions or anything like that. If you call us and you're like, I don't want to say my name, I don't want to tell you anything about me, that's fine. You don't have to tell us anything. So I think that's, good. You have your anonymity, and we're not trying to send the police out there. We're just trying to help you.
Okay, that's good to know. And you briefly mentioned something about validation. And can you explain what validation is and why that is so important? Because all too often, you may be feeling like a challenging emotion on whatever, level it might be, but you just felt, I'm just being a baby, or I'm being weak, or, and then you try to, maybe in a roundabout way mention it to someone, but they kind of just be like, you'll be okay, you'll get over it. So what is validation, and why is it important?
Oh yeah, I think it's one of those things where we do it. And I heard a call recently from one of my coworkers, and this guy was going through an issue. I forgot what it was, but he was going through an issue. And my coworker was just like, no, that is hard. And the person on the other line just started crying, because like, nobody has ever told me that this is hard, that this is just something I'm expected to do. And to be honest with you, it is hard. Like, I think a lot of the times where if you just hear somebody say like, no, what you're going through is rough, it is hard. It's something that, no matter what it is, even if it's you lost the remote and you can't find it, just sometimes just having somebody validate you, understand that this is a crisis for you, this is something hard for you, you're able to, just feel that relief of like, yes, this is an okay emotion to feel. I'm allowed to feel it. I'm allowed to cry. I'm allowed to get it out, and I'm allowed to move through it. Because I think if you don't validate it, you're kind of stuck there in a way. But,
I love that. I hope that you're really paying attention to your messaging here. Okay, we've talked about a lot of different things, but what's one of the most important messages that you want to make sure people watching this get it, whether they're in El Paso or whomever, because you guys also field calls from the region, correct?
Yeah. So I guess the two-part question is, so we get calls from here to the Panhandle. So from here to like Lubbock, we get all those calls. So people in the oil fields is a big one, people out in Odessa, people out in Lubbock, really that entire area. And I think there's a couple of counties like around Houston that we cover too, in San Antonio.
Okay.
But I think the main message I want to send is kind of what I've said already. We're not going to send the police out there. Don't worry about it. We're here to, as long as you're not going to hurt yourself or anybody else, we're fine. We can talk to you about really whatever you need to talk about. It's a safe space. Feel free to talk about whatever you want to talk about. The second one is, and this is just because I've heard this so much this last week, you're not a burden. No matter who you are, no matter what you're calling for, you don't have to apologize to us. This is what we do. We're professionals. I can tell you, everybody on that, on my team is a professional. We're there. We know how to handle it. You don't have to apologize for anything. So please feel free to call, even if it's like, think we talked about it earlier, but even if it's something small that you feel is building up to something,
Right.
let's cut it off there. It doesn't have to get hot. It could stay up warm. It could go to cold. So definitely feel free to reach out whenever you feel like you need us.
Okay. And then if I just could, elaborate on that a little bit. I've also heard that with mental health, we talked about the word crisis. That is like the goal. We want to prevent it to getting to crisis, right? And that's kind of where you explain it's hot and cold and warm. We want to stay cold and warm. So we want to talk about our issues and concerns and challenges before we get to that crisis level, correct?
Yeah, and I think that's what we're there for. Like, and a lot of people think that we're just there for the hot spot. No, we're there to prevent that hot spot. That's my goal, is to prevent anything bad from happening. And so no matter where we're starting it at, it's fine. Even if you're still at cold and you feel like you're getting a little hot, call. It's okay.
Okay. I love it. Joey, thank you so much for your time. We know that you need to probably go home and get some rest.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned something earlier that you guys are heroes, and I truly, I know at EHN we really value all of our employees, but our crisis, whether you're in our crisis services, because we do offer 24-hour crisis services at our 1600 or 1601
East Yandell.
East Yandell.
Just go, it's the back side of the building.
Yeah.
I tell people every day, there's a big sign on the back that says crisis. It's on the Yandell side. There you can just go in, get an assessment, talk to somebody, and that's, like, I know this is kind of off topic, but
no,
that's
go
open
ahead.
24 hours a day if
It's
you want to
our
talk to
crisis
somebody
services.
in person. And a lot of people call because they do want to talk to somebody in person. So that's open 24 hours a day. You can walk in. If it's at night, just there's a sign on the door. If that part of the building's closed, just walk to the other side.
Okay.
But that's also an option. I think emergence. I've worked in a lot of LMHAs. We have a very robust system. Where whenever you need us, we're able to, offer something. So I think that's one of the big things I really enjoy.
Okay, and I'm glad that we brought that up, because we do have our crisis centers, meaning our call takers, our 988, our 779-1800, but we have a physical location, and that's the one you're talking about that you can walk in.
Yes, that's the Yandell.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Joey. Well, thank you. You guys are truly heroes to all of us, and I mean that genuinely, and I know that a lot of people at EHN do too. Out in our community, you guys are making a real difference.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll let my team know.
Okay, thank you very much, Joey. And thank you guys for being with us for this episode of Talking It Through with EHN. We'll see you next time.